Hello and welcome to South South News. I'm Connor Schratz. Here at South South News, we shine a light on those people working hard to help the world's poor and achieve the UN's Millennium Development Goals. One such person is Hugh Evans. Mr. Evans is the co-founder and CEO of the Global Poverty Project, an international organization dedicated to improving the plight of the world's impoverished through grassroots fundraising and high-level policy change. We met up with Mr. Evans at his New York office to discuss his work with the GPP and the future of development. So tell us about the Global Poverty Project.
The Global Poverty Project is an international organization designed to see an end to extreme poverty in our lifetime. And we focus on driving campaigns focused on political change, social change, or corporate change designed to have a big influence on the world's poorest in a positive way. We focus on global public health issues, aid more generally, global trade, and also combating corruption and promoting good governance. They're the fundamental pillars of the Global Poverty Project's mandate.
Now, how did all of this get started? How did this go from being an idea to actually being a real organization?
Yeah, sure. I had this dream that we could do for global poverty what Al Gore did for climate change with a huge presentation like His Inconvenient Truth. It's been an intense journey over the last 3 years, but I think we can say that we've grown from being what was for the last couple of years a startup entrepreneurial organization to now being an organization that is having genuine political, social and an impact from a business sense as well.
For Hugh Evans, a career in development programs started early. After experience with poor families in the slums of Manila at the age of 12, he devoted himself to a life of working with the world's extreme poor, largely through the development of partnerships. In 2002, he started the Oaktree Foundation, Australia's first entirely youth-run and youth-driven aid and development agency. Still young at the age of 28, Mr. Evans represents how effective the youth can be in tackling the poverty crisis.
For any young person who's keen to get involved, you need to start by asking yourself, how do you believe change occurs in the most effective manner? I believe change occurs at two levels, for example, both at a grassroots level and at a systemic and policy level, and both are equally important. And so you need to make a decision of where you're going to spend your time, your talent and your treasure. And if you're going to spend it at a grassroots implementation, then go for the most effective aid organisations out there, the ones that are both transparent and really making an impact, and find out how you can plug yourself into them. And so I'd encourage, if you're a young person passionate about creating change at a macro level, then make sure you have a good policy background or people around you who can do research with you about what are the clear solutions, because then fight for those clear solutions.
Now, one of the problems for these young people as they try to start an organization is just the logistics of it. It can be very daunting. There's all kinds of things you have to worry about that you may have never even considered before. Having been there yourself, what advice would you offer to someone who might feel overwhelmed?
I think you need a clear and interrogatable idea. So often when we start an organization, the idea might be clear, but we haven't done enough work interrogating it. So for example, let's take an example of something like Tom's shoes. Some people love Tom's shoes. I personally think it's a bit ambiguous, because I think if you send shoes to the developing world, well, you might actually undercut local markets. So he had a clear idea, but was it interrogatable? Did someone go, is that really what the world's poorest need? What is it that the world's poorest actually need? So that's one place to start. Have a clear idea. So say if, like Scott Harrison, who founded Charity Water, he wants to end the water crisis. Great ambition, and then his mechanism at this point in time is through the infrastructure associated with wells and water security and broader sanitation to a lesser extent. That's a really good, I believe, intervention to a clear and present challenge. And so any young person who's about to start, just make sure you got the idea clear, and then work to interrogate that idea. Share it with anyone that you can possibly get your hands on that might be able to ask them the question of, how can I make my idea better?
The goal that Hugh Evans and countless others are working towards is not ambiguous. It is the complete eradication of extreme poverty. This once lofty-seeming goal has gained traction in recent years, as humanitarians, politicians, and economists argue that this could be achieved within a generation. For Mr. Evans, it is not a question of can we, but will we. So there's this idea in the development community today that's very intriguing. and that's that we can end extreme poverty by 2025. And this is an idea that largely comes from an economist that I know that you've worked with in the past, Jeffrey Sachs. Do you think that's possible? Do you think that it's realistic that we can end extreme poverty within a generation?
The question of whether or not we can end extreme poverty by 2025, the answer is definitively yes. But are we on track to achieve it? Certainly not. So if you consider, say, the child mortality goals, you know, still 22,000 children die every single day due to preventable causes. So at the current trajectory, no, we're not on track. Is it possible? Yes, indeed. Absolutely. But to end extreme poverty, you need to consider a range of competing factors. Aid is important, but equally important is global trade, broader global financial flows, and also good governance.
Right.
And that's why we at the Global Poverty Project, we focus on public health as one aspect of our work and the broader aid agenda, encompassing all of the Millennium Development Goals. But we also look at MDG 8, which encompasses questions of global trade and also ultimately questions of good governance. They're equally important.
Hugh Evans told me that development initiatives were in a transitional period, and it looks as though he's right. Young people with fresh ideas, almost unimaginable technological advances, and the rise of new world powers on the international stage are all changing the face of development. As the world of aid and development changes, it does so with Mr. Evans and the GPP at the forefront, firmly committed to one thing: a world without poverty. Connor Schratz, South South News, New York.